Employers and managers who had to fire someone on their first day. What happened? He tried to buy weed off a customer just because the customer looked like someone who might have weed. He didn't. I got to fire my co-manager's sister who called 5 minutes before her first shift and said she'd be there in an hour because she just sat down to dinner with friends. What do you mean you just sat down for dinner? Your first shift is in 5 minutes? Yeah, I know. But we were out and decided to go for dinner. I'll still be there, just a little late. An hour isn't a little late. Be here in 5 minutes, or don't bother coming in at all. But co-manager is my sister. She gave me the job. Yes, she did. See you in 5, or not at all. But co-manager is my sister. My co-manager was actually happy about it. She knew her sister would be a shitty employee and only agreed to hire her because we were desperately short-staffed, and she could start immediately. I worked at a company once where a guy got fired for coming in late. It wasn't his first day, but still only about his third. His excuse? I left the house at 8. I don't see what the problem is. The manager told him, we need people that can be here at 8, not leave the house at 8. Don't bother coming in tomorrow. I worked at a popular teen college kid clothing store. I wasn't the manager, but I trained new hires. This one girl shopped at the store a lot, and we were excited to hire her. She was let go because she was late, was caught trying on clothes instead of greeting, and apparently laughed when anyone asked for a size larger than a medium. Her family showed up at the end of her shift and tried to buy $2,000 to $3,000 worth of clothes with her employee discount. Corporate policy sucks, so they got a good portion of it. Her mom tried to bring it all back years later, completely worn, destroyed, and threw a fit saying she should get full price because the girl had died. Guess who we could all see sitting in her mom's car? My chef hired a guy who was less than a week out of prison for dealing. He was just going to wash dishes. Seemed like an okay guy, just looking for some work because he had just done 5+ years. So, day 1, he goes to head chef and asks, "Hey man, you know anybody here who wants to buy heroin?" Out the door 2 hours into his first job out of the joint. Yep, those are the ones who end up back in jail within a couple weeks. And blame society for it. Well, the Department of Corrections entirely failed to correct him, so fair enough. IT position, supposedly had a BA in computer science with 2 years experience in relevant technical position. I didn't interview him. We very quickly discovered that his computer abilities were non-existent, started asking questions until he broke down, and said he lied on his resume because he wanted to make more money. His previous job was drywall installation. We gave him a list of software he needed, available via a URL. He didn't know what to do with a URL or what a URL was, and then it quickly unraveled. It was about 3 hours because the first 2 were paperwork. I work for a company that takes care of the HR needs of other small companies in my area. New hires often come in to fill out paperwork. We had this guy who came in, filled out his name and social security number, gave it to us, then proceeded to steal the front desk guy's wallet and keys. Right in front of the very visible security camera. Turns out the police knew the guy as we was a repeat offender. He lived right around the corner. The most memorable firing I witnessed was this man who got hired as VP of Marketing. He thought the title gave him the right to be late on his first day for an important meeting with our board members, VP and CEO. Though irritating, he was given a pass since he was new and rewarded with a second chance to impress. This proved to be useless, as he was later heard propositioning our new interns for sex in exchange to be in this imaginary marketing campaign that supposedly would come with endless perks and cash. The CEO personally escorted him out and kindly told him to go fuck himself. In the most PC way, of course. Know someone who works at a warehouse that stores and ships boxes of pharmaceuticals. There are some understandably pretty tight handling rules so nothing goes missing and everything is stored properly. One day they had a guy start that asked if they should open the oxy to count them to make sure that there was as many in the bottle as it said there was. He asked multiple people this, was gone shortly after. "Hey, I'm just going to open this box and count these pills, just to make sure they're all still there, you know? Whoops, looks like this bottle has a few too many. I'm just going to stick them in my mouth so some kid doesn't find them and get hurt. Can't have that." Not an employer or manager, but a girl at my job showed up absolutely plastered on her first day of work. Working at a machine shop, I'm sure you can imagine that this was especially a no-no. I still wonder why anyone would show up drunk on their first day of work. Nerves, maybe? I showed up to my first meeting at a new job plastered. It was a late meeting, about 8 p.m., with a client on a Friday. The receptionist forgot to confirm the meeting with me, and I was already at home doing shots with friends when I got the "Where the hell are you?" phone call. Fortunately, I functioned very well when drinking and no one questioned me. I apologized for being late, and the receptionist apologized for forgetting to confirm the meeting. I managed a bookstore that had an auxiliary calendar kiosk at the other end of the shopping center. Hired a woman to man it, did her morning training, left her alone for a bit. Went back to check on her and found half the calendars stolen and her asleep behind the curtains we used to hide back stock. I've never been so angry. Who steals a calendar? I had this image in my head that they were advent calendars and that she was in a food coma with chocolate all around her mouth, fallen asleep behind the curtains with chocolate all over them too. I'm not a manager, but I had a potential coworker who called in sick. I guess he didn't know that the manager didn't have to work through the evening and bumped into him at the movies. My boss told us this as he fired him the next day. Similar story here. I fired an employee after about 2 weeks on the job. He missed 3 days of work because of the stomach flu. When he got to work, I acted very concerned and let him lie to me with all the elaborate details of his illness. After he had buried himself in lies, I showed him the Facebook photos that his friends had tagged him in over the past few nights out doing shots at bars. I said, you could have just told me that your mates were in town for a visit and I would have given you the time off. I manage a coffee shop lunchy place. Young girl came in fresh out of culinary school and had previous coffee shop experience. What could go wrong, right? The first day I had her shadow the other employees just to get a hang of the POS system and general flow of the store. Nope, customers overwhelmed her, and she liked to hide in the back leaning on the ice machine. Fine. Whatever. She said she loved baking earlier on, so I sent her to the kitchen to make some cookies. I'm super chill. I didn't even care what kind. As long as they were fucking awesome and delicious, she had creative control. She comes out sometime later admitting she doesn't know how to make cookies and needs help. Now I'm getting bloody frustrated. As we move on into lunch rush, a wave of customers flood the front of house and I was needed. I had 40 liters of soup in the back needing a titch more roux and asked her to thicken it a tad before serving. Surely she could handle that, soups and sauces being addressed in the first bloody week of the culinary school she apparently attended. I attended the same program, by the way. Nope. She found a box of cornstarch and dumped the whole box in. Dry. Soup destroyed. Her shift ended shortly afterwards. Turns out I forgot to get her contact information at the beginning of the shift, so I had to message her on Facebook telling her not to bother ever returning. Classy, I know, but she was just one huge bloody mess I couldn't even begin to fix. My old manager, matron at a psychiatric secure hospital, told me of a guy who was employed as a healthcare assistant, working with people with a learning disability. Part of his role involved escorting patients into the community to help them with shopping. He took his first charge to a shopping center and proceeded to spend £250 on their debit card buying electronic goods for himself, which he then brought back to the hospital and asked for them to be stored in the staff room until the end of his shift. He left with the police. I didn't fire this guy personally, but I did one better. I arrested him. I'm a police officer in the UK. I was forced to help on a recruitment event in our headquarters where applicants turned up, listened to a talk and did a few exams. Almost all wore suits or shirts and ties except one. One was wearing a black polo shirt, black combat trousers and tactical boots. Weird and a bad impression, but whatever. Whilst they do the exam, I went into the yard for a smoke. All the applicants had to park in a certain area, which was just by the smoking shelter. One car stood out. It looked just like our unmarked cars, exactly like our unmarks. I was a little confused, so I had a closer look at it. It had radiator lights and on the back seat was a police-issue stab vest. I thought that it must be one of our cars parked in the wrong place. It happens. After the exam they left. I watched them leave and lo and behold, polo shirt man gets in the unmarked car. Immediately I jump in a real unmarked and take off after him. I found him 2 streets away putting blue lights on and driving through a red light. I overtook him, put my lights on and blocked him. He gets out waving a fake warrant card telling me he was en route to an emergency. Arrested for impersonating a police officer. He was also suspected of doing the same in about 3 other forces. Work at a used record store. While giving the guy the tour, he mentions how we underbelly our LPS and lets us know he's just going to use his employee discount to resell all the good stuff that comes in our eBay store. He lasted about an hour. New firefighter in my city. Had just finished 5 months academy, graduated the night before. His whole family is there, the mayor, half the city council, and the fire chief pins his badge, and then he is assigned to a station. The rookie is told to report to the police department the next morning for tactical driver training, obstacle course, and skid pad. Dude shows up the next morning at the police department, an hour late, still drunk from all the celebrating from the night before. Not only fired but arrested for DUI. That's the end of his firefighting career. I worked at a drugstore. They hired some girl, and on her first day behind the counter alone she spent 20 minutes scratching unpurchased lotto tickets and throwing away any losers until the manager saw what she was doing on the security camera and booted her. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.